Welcome back to the Sunday Footy Show. Time to go inside the 10 with these three gentlemen from the Australian, Brent Reid, and from the Sydney Morning Herald, both Andrew Webster and Michael Chamas. Welcome, gentlemen. Thanks for coming in.
Still
Get straight into it. We don't follow what the AFL does, but they play a collision sport as well. This year they go in with a 23rd man, so an extra player. They actually go a little bit further. That's for concussion and for those medically unfit. On the back of, I suppose, Ryan Matterson leaving the field, and so much talk about a possible 18th man in a game. Are we getting closer to that becoming a reality, do you think?
I've changed my stance on this deal. I was a fan of the 18th man, but now I've decided I'm off it. Because most clubs keep a player... Most clubs keep a player up their sleeve anyway. A 17th man doesn't play a lot of minutes in the game, so they're always kept in reserve in case there's injuries later in the game. So I think with that... I'm content with the way it is. And, you know, we talk about attrition at the moment, getting attrition back in the game. We saw Parramatta on Thursday night. Unbelievable performance with men out. I mean, I remember at 89 Queensland winning an Origin game with 12 men in the end of the game. Yep. It was one of the great victories. So, you know, that sort of stuff builds, I would say, legends, great narratives about clubs doing it with their backs to the wall a little bit. So I'm content with the way it is.
I'm a little bit on the fence.
Oh.
Like, yeah, actually, I don't actually have an
It's
opinion.
not allowed here this morning.
No, look, because
You're paid to have an opinion.
I do have an opinion.
Okay.
It's on the fence.
Yeah, because concussion is obviously such a touchy subject for this game at the moment, and how it deals with it, around HIAs, about players coming back, around what's happening with Boyd Cordner and Jake Friend, and a lot of it comes down to optics. But my concern is that coaches, as they do with the HIA, will exploit the rule.
Yeah. And
use it as an extra interchange.
That's such a shame, because my first reaction to it, well, how will this be exploited?
Yeah, it will be. And look, coaches, whenever there's a new rule, they exploit the new rule. They'll exploit this. They did when the concussion rules first came in. There were players staying down 20 minutes into the game, get a fresh man on. It'll happen. Problem is, for the 18th man, I don't see it coming in, because as Reedy said, he made a good point. We're using the 17th man. Yeah, it's very rare. We're using the 17th man less and less now. They're there just in case as it is. So the argument can be made, why don't we just use the 17th man as the bloke who covers all positions?
What about if a concussed player who leaves the field is definitely ruled out the next week? Would that have an influence in that not being exploited then? If you knew that a player who was leaving the field, you couldn't play ducks and drakes with him?
Well, it probably would. I mean, they've obviously got the 11-day stand in now, unless you get an independent doctor to clear you. So I suppose that's a deterrent to blokes staying down, because there's a chance they're going to get ruled out by an independent doctor within the next 11 days anyway. So, I mean, I think there's almost a deterrent there anyway for that happening still. So.
Okay.
But don't you think the concussion, just watching this weekend's games in the prism of what's been going on with particularly Boyd, it's changed the game. Any knock now, you look at a player and think, is that a HIA?
Yeah.
Is he going to be back? Will he play next week?
Yeah.
Like, that is in your mind the whole time. And I know the game gets beaten up in terms of concussion protocols and what it's doing. I think it's doing its best, the best it can. I think it could do more and be a lot more transparent with things. But, you know, the game's changed because of what's happened.
And needed to. But next point then, there is, I know people are upset about an anomaly with Felice Kaufusi staying on the field and Dallin Watene-Zelezniak being sin-binned for foul acts that had an impact on the players. What's your reaction to what we've seen over the weekend in that regard?
I think the Dallin Watene-Zelezniak decision was right. I think Felice Kaufusi should have been off the field as well. Yeah. Like, it's the reason, for me, look at Kaufusi, right? And whether players are taught to do this or not, you could see there was some element of intent there with the elbow. They try and make it as subtle as possible, but there's no doubt Kaufusi on the way down put that elbow in a position where he was going to potentially contact Ryan Matterson's head. And we talk about concussions. Ryan Matterson's hasn't been in a good way as well. He's had a few. That Tigers one last year was quite nasty. So I think the inconsistency there of the weekend wasn't a good look.
Well, you go.
No, you go.
I was going to say, the NRL acknowledged that, Graham Annesley acknowledged that Felice Kaufusi probably should have been sin bin. He would have been happy to see him in the sin bin. So I think Ashley Klein got that one wrong. And I think the NRL's acknowledged that, and Graham will acknowledge it again in his briefing tomorrow. So, you know, I think they've admitted they got that wrong. He should have been sin bin.
I have less concern with... Well, I think he should have been sent off.
Sent off?
I think he should have been sent off.
No. That's
Why?
over the top.
Mate, he's come over the top of him with an elbow banging into his ground.
The elbow was. Yeah, he didn't
And then
get
he
him.
looked at
He
the
didn't
touch
get him
judge
flushed
straight
though.
away.
If he got him
looked at
flushed,
the touch judge straight away.
He did.
And gave himself up.
because he tried to, but if he got him flushed, it'd be a different story.
I think the game.
Blokes don't
I
get
think
sent
the
off
game.
anymore,
Well, that's what I mean. I
Yeah.
think it's wrong. What's a send off? I thought Ramey swinging arm into Dufty's head last week could have earned a send off. And then what happens is they talk about getting tough on foul play, and then it goes to the match review, and Kaufusi's going to miss 2 weeks,
yeah.
for that. And you want to sit there and talk about them being serious about concussion?
If that elbow
Did
made
Ramey
genuine
get 3
contact,
weeks?
Webby, he'd be getting 4 or 5 weeks. That elbow, it just slightly struck him.
Well,
It is a-
It slightly struck him. He was knocked out and won't play
he was
for a
knocked
couple
out
of
by the
weeks.
head slam. It was
I'd
the
like to
head
see-
slam.
That's just as bad. The head
what
slam
happens-
was just
what
as
happens,
bad.
Shamus? What happens if he hits him?
He'd gone 4
Mate,
weeks.
he's probably gone. No, Ryan
he's got more
Madison
than
might be
4.
gone for 6 months.
Oh, he may be a
Mate,
bit
there
of trouble,
needs to be
Ryan
more of a
Madison.
deterrent for that type of grubby act.
It is a very interesting question to ask. What does a send off warrant? Like what? What does it take in
We've
our
had this
game?
issue for ages, right? The send-offs just don't happen anymore.
No, they don't.
Guys don't get sent off.